Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something that affects all of us, but that most of us don't really think about. The blueprint that's designed to keep you safe in a hospital. It's called accreditation, and we're going to break down exactly what it is and why it matters so much. I mean, think about it. It's a huge question, right? When you walk through those hospital doors, you're placing an incredible amount of trust in the hands of strangers and complex systems. But how is that trust actually earned? And more importantly, how is it verified? It's definitely not just about crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
The best way to think of it is like this. Just like a skyscraper has a building code to make sure it's structurally sound and won't fall down, hospitals have their own comprehensive set of standards. This isn't a list of friendly suggestions, it's the absolute foundation for providing safe, high-quality care.
And that brings us to the big word, accreditation. This is the official process, a really rigorous top-to-bottom evaluation of everything a hospital does, measured against hundreds of standards. It's how a hospital formally proves it's committed to keeping you safe. So where do all these rules come from? Well, they're set by organizations like GAHR, which is the General Authority for Healthcare Accreditation and Regulation. Their handbook is, let me tell you, packed with hundreds of standards that cover literally everything, from the most complex brain surgery all the way down to how the laundry gets clean. And these standards really look at safety from two different but equally important angles. You've got the patient-centered side, which is all about your experience, your rights, and your needs. And then you have the organization-centered side, which makes sure the hospital itself is a safe, well-run machine for the staff. Okay, so let's make this real. Let's follow a patient's journey, right from the moment they arrive, to see how these standards actually protect you in very tangible ways. So the very first safety check is also one of the most important, making absolutely sure you are who you say you are. Before anyone does anything, and I mean anything, from giving you a Tylenol to drawing your blood, they have to confirm your identity using at least two unique things, like your name and your medical record number. It sounds simple, but this one step prevents a world of mix-ups. Now, before any big procedure, we get to something called informed consent. And listen, this is so much more than just signing a piece of paper. It means the doctor has to sit down and clearly explain all the risks, all the benefits, and any other options you have. It puts you in the driver's seat of your own healthcare. The standards also give you a whole set of fundamental rights. You have the right to know exactly who is treating you. You have the right to have your pain taken seriously and managed. You even have the right to refuse care if you want to. And, crucially, if something isn't right, you have the right to file a complaint and have it be heard. Here's a quick but really important distinction that auditors look for. A document is the hospital's plan. It's their policy on how they say things are supposed to be done. But a record is the proof of what they actually did for you, like that consent form you signed. They need both, the plan and the proof they followed it.
All right, so we've covered your rights when you come in the door. Now let's move into the clinical side of things. This is where the standards tackle some of the biggest anxieties people have about their actual treatment.
You know that nagging worry in the back of your mind? Did the day shift nurse tell the night shift nurse about my allergy? Well, that's a legitimate concern. In fact, as this quote from the GAHAR handbook says, miscommunication is the #1 reason bad things happen in hospitals. So of course, there's a standard for that. To stop that kind of miscommunication cold, they use a mandatory readback process. So if a doctor gives an order over the phone, the nurse doesn't just say, "Got it." They have to write it down, read the entire order back to the doctor, and then get a verbal confirmation that it's correct. It's a simple communication loop that closes the door on so many potential errors. And what about your medication? Well, before a single pill gets to you, a pharmacist provides a crucial second pair of eyes. They review every single order. They're checking for potential allergies, dangerous interactions with other drugs you're taking, and making sure the dose is exactly right for you. It's an absolutely essential safety net. Of course, a huge concern for anyone in the hospital is infection. The standards require a multi-layered defense. It starts with standard precautions, like intense hand hygiene for every single patient. Then you have transmission-based precautions for specific contagious illnesses. And they also use things called bundles, which are proven sets of practices that, when used together, are great at preventing common infections. Okay, now let's go behind the scenes. So much of what keeps you safe is stuff you will never, ever see. So let's pull back the curtain on the hospital's organizational safety net. Safety includes the visible things you'd expect, right? Like a fire safety plan, clear exits, that kind of thing. But it also includes these critical, invisible processes. A perfect example is workforce credentialing. This means the hospital has to rigorously check and verify that every single doctor, nurse, and tech has the licenses and training they claim to have.
And think about this. What happens if the power goes out during surgery? It's a terrifying thought. Well, standards mandate that all the essential utilities, power, water, medical gas, not only have backup systems, but that those backups are tested constantly. This ensures the hospital can keep running safely, even in a full-blown crisis.
So, with all these thousands of requirements, how does a hospital actually prove it's doing all this? How do they earn that official seal of accreditation?
Well, it is an incredibly tough process. A team of expert surveyors comes on site for several days, and they are everywhere. They're reviewing records, they're interviewing staff from janitors to surgeons, and they're literally following patients through their care to see if what happens in reality matches what's written down in the policy book.
And the scoring is no joke. To pass a standard, a hospital has to show they're following it at least 80% of the time. Anything below 50% is an automatic fail for that standard. The final decision rests on how they score across this massive range of requirements.
But what happens when something goes terribly wrong? For these worst-case scenarios, the standards have a special category called a sentinel event. The name itself tells you everything. It's a signal, a red flag that a severe error has happened and requires an immediate, intense investigation. And we are talking about the never events, the things that should absolutely never happen. Surgery on the wrong person, leaving an instrument inside a patient, an infant abduction. When a sentinel event happens, the hospital has to report it within 2 days. Then they have to do a root cause analysis, a deep dive to figure out what systems failed and fix them so it can never, ever happen again. So you see, accreditation is so much more than just a certificate hanging on a wall. It's this ongoing, grueling process that serves as a hospital's public promise to keep you safe. It is one of the most powerful indicators of the kind of care you can expect to receive. So next time you or someone you love needs a hospital, remember this. It's a question worth asking.